was also the responsible gimmick era of professional wrestling, which I think you guys, at least the guys that I've seen, have smartened up that that's a death sentence to the 50 guys before you that died because they thought that was the wrestling lifestyle. That's one thing that has to change. That whole gimmick life is just, don't get started with it. Don't. If you do get a surgery, man, just, if he wants to give you 60, tell him give you 12. Because it never fails. If somebody gives you 60 perks or 60 bikes, you might need 12 after the surgery, and all of a sudden you got those sitting in the house, and you decide, well, no, I'll drink them with 12 beers. And you get into that cycle, and I've had, I'll sit and go through pictures that I have at home of guys that were in my crew, like early, I have a picture of Yoko, Crush, Owen, Bam Bam. It's like there's 9 guys in the picture. It was a promotional thing we did for Shell when I was a champion up at WWF then. I'm the only guy in the picture that's alive. And there's like a softball game in Chicago, same thing. Macho and me were the only 2 that were alive until Mach died. But everybody. And it's just like you look at that and you say, God, man, it's amazing. Like there's not probably many guys in Iraq that have lost as many. Because when back then you're on the road 300 days. I mean, 300 days is you spend way more time. We would spend way more time together than anybody in your family would. So you lose people like that and it was such a clump of guys, that happened. It's almost like a guy every 3 or 4 months, it seemed. So I don't know how I got sidetracked on that, but that's another thing. I think it just goes back to taking care of yourself. Don't know when you're hurt. And that was what you were asking. You know when you're hurt, and there's nothing. I promise you, you won't get any. You won't come out and get any accolades for injuring yourself. You might have had a slight rotator cuff injury. You go out there and keep working on it, and you do 5 or 6 more spots and something stupid, and then you tear your supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and you tear your labrum. And now you're off 9 months. You got a bum shoulder the rest of your life. And if you would have stopped when you actually felt that pain where you couldn't hold the guy up on a slam and stopped and just got some rehab, you might have been out for 3 weeks. So it's like, it's the work, guys. Always remember that. It is the work. That's why we do this. That's why we can do it. That's why guys can do it when they're in their 50s, because it is a work. Make sure it stays a work.